Ukraine is a beautiful and strong country in the heart of Europe. Since the time of Kyiv Rus, we were a part of the civilized world, striving for development and enlightenment. Many of our historical heroes are also heroes of your national histories, like Anna of Kyiv or Igor Sikorsky. But then, for decades, we were hidden behind the Iron Curtain, occupied by Soviet Union, and hidden for so long that many started doubt, is there any difference between Ukraine and Russia at all? There is a difference, and this difference is huge, civilizational. This is not just war between Ukraine and Russia. This is a war between freedom and suppression, between democracy and authoritarianism, between good and evil. And we are very grateful that in this existential battle we are not alone. Nobody in Ukraine wanted this war, but today nobody in Ukraine doubts we will win this war. So let's start the list of the most important victories of Ukraine and its allies with military victories. In 2022, there were many. First of all, we were able to take back Kyiv very quickly. Actually, Russian troops did not manage to capture the capital according to Putin's blitzkrieg plan. It failed at the very beginning of war. Despite massive missile attacks and violent behavior of Russian soldiers, Kharkiv region was also protected very quickly and under Ukrainian control. The only regional center that Russian soldiers managed to occupy, naming themselves the second largest army in the world, but in reality being the second strongest army in Ukraine, after Ukrainian armed forces, of course. So Kherson was occupied, and that is the only regional center that they managed to capture, but only temporarily. And soon the city returned back to Ukraine. What is also very symbolic that on the very next day after Kherson's liberation, our President Zelensky visited the city, even though it was very dangerous. Compare it to the behavior of the so-called Russian president, who is hiding somewhere in bunker and nobody knows where. Another important military victory is sinking of the flagship warship Moskva. It became very famous when it tried to capture Ukrainian sailors on the Snake Island, Zmiyny Ostrov. And the phrase that became known all over the world. When Russian ship offered Ukrainian soldiers to give up, they answered it, "Русский корабль, иди на***». And it happened exactly as we wished. On the 14th of April, Moskva sank and became the most expensive loss of Russian army in Ukraine, because the cost of the ship is close to $750 million. We know that Russians don't value human life, even the life of their own soldiers, so perhaps the ship was really expensive for them. And another victory that I have to mention, even though I don't know who is the author of it, is the damage of the Crimean bridge that was set on fire on the 8th of October 2022. Anyway, millions of beautiful photos described the symbol of Russian occupation of Crimea and in general Russian war in Ukraine on fire. Putin was very much concerned about this, as the Crimean bridge was a symbol of Crimea annexation. And now we can find lots of proofs that it is not working properly. Among other, maybe less visible on the surface victories are Ukrainian volunteers and international volunteers, our allies in different corners of the world, supplying us with so much needed weapons, trainings and exchange of experience. And of course the belief and trust in the Ukrainian armed forces, who demonstrate humane behavior, who save animals from the abandoned houses and treat Russian prisoners of war the way it is intended by Geneva Convention, contrary to what Russians do everywhere in the world. I think that this love and respect to the Ukrainian armed forces and the military from other corners of the world that support us is very important for the spirit and morale of Ukrainian people. As millions of normal people all over the planet, I did not believe this war was possible. Full-scale war in the 21st century in the center of Europe, no. But also, honestly, I could not believe that such strong support was possible. And among the victories of Ukraine in 2022, there are many diplomatic and international victories that demonstrate the support of our allies. And first of all, this is a strong alliance of people and countries that demonstrate their unchanging support to Ukraine, providing us with all the necessary. We are extremely grateful for the fact that so many Ukrainians who had to flee the country because of war now feel home in your countries, and that the voice of the citizens of different countries who support Ukraine in this battle is so strong, together with their political leaders. Rammstein is a unique military platform that helps our allies to coordinate actions and to react as quickly and as effectively as possible. Land-lease by the United States of America is a unique decision that helped Ukraine a lot. For the first time since the Second World War, we are able to defend ourselves much better with the help of American weapons. And I think that the whole world saw when Land-lease started working, actually, because our counter-offensive became more and more successful with each passing day. Sanctions, frozen money of oligarchs, Russian oligarchs, the impossibility to travel around the world for Russian citizens demonstrate that their country is in total isolation because of this aggressive war against Ukraine. It is also very important that European Parliament, EU Parliament, NATO General Assembly, together with the governments of many countries of the world, acknowledge that Russia is a state sponsor of terrorism, which is another important step for the isolation of Russia as a terrorist state until this war is stopped and until this war is won by Ukraine and its allies. One more important victory is the EU candidate status for Ukraine that was granted to us on the 23rd of June 2022. It is a very symbolic gesture that demonstrates Ukraine is heading back home to democratic, civilized Western society we belonged to for many centuries before we were actually occupied by Soviets. This year, we also have a lot of cultural and informational victories which are important. First of all, and I was really surprised, the Ukrainian language has become super popular among foreign language learners all over the world. One of the best language learning application, Duolingo, stated that 1.3 million people all over the world registered for their course of the Ukrainian language. That is an honor. Our victory on the Eurovision Song Contest is another demonstration of global support and interest to Ukrainian culture. Our national dish, borshch, soup made of cabbages, beetroot and potatoes, is now a part of UNESCO cultural heritage, which is also very important and also very tasty, I have to confess. Ukrainian journalists, all Ukrainian journalists received a special Pulitzer Prize. And this year, Nobel Peace Prize went to Ukraine too. I hope you've heard a very emotional and important speech of Alexandra Matvichuk. Many Ukrainian writers, composers, directors received various prizes all over the world and thus introduced huge audiences to their works and products of Ukrainian modern and cultural heritage. It is very important. And just recently, the Time magazine pronounced the Person of the Year our President Zelensky and the Spirit of Ukraine. The spirit of Ukraine changed tremendously during this last year. Starting this violent and totally unnecessary war in Ukraine, Putin achieved just the contrary to what he wanted. He wanted to erase Ukraine as a culture, as a country, but we have become united as never before. And now Everybody in the world, almost everybody in the world knows what is Ukraine and how different Ukraine from Russia is. He wanted to demilitarize us, but Ukrainian armed forces demonstrate strength and bravery, and together with the support of our allies we'll learn a lot, and in future we will be strong protectors of global peace, I'm sure of that. Ukrainian people are united. Ukrainian people are confident we will win this war and we will build a stronger, better country. In 2022 we have lost a lot. The worst is that we have lost a lot of people, a lot of brave soldiers, women and children, because Russians are cruel and they don't care about any rules in this war. But we have achieved a lot. Now we know that the world stands with us, and we feel that Ukraine was, is, and will always be free, strong, and independent. History, culture, nature, cuisine, people, there are so many beautiful things to discover in Ukraine. And I hope the day when it is safe to visit us comes soon. So see you soon in Ukraine, next year after we win. Happy New Year, world!